Wood chips have always been produced as a byproduct of some other primary activity, either in the harvesting of timber products or in the processing of lumber. The supply of that began to diminish with some of the decline in the forest products industry that we've seen over the last couple decades. And meanwhile, the demand for the product has gone up.
A lot of the state Capitol office buildings and state offices in the state are heated with wood, and hospitals and college campuses increasingly so. We have 43 schools that are heated with biomass.
It's about, probably a little more than 30% of Vermont K-12 public school kids go to wood chip heated schools now. They're displacing about 1.4 million gallons of fuel oil a year, or fuel oil equivalent, because in some cases natural gas being displaced. And they're saving, I believe it's $1.7 million a year in fuel costs.
And so it really transitioned in the last 6 years towards a commodity, intentionally harvested wood fuel. Now, a large majority of the wood that fuels the schools and hospitals and college campuses here in Vermont is really an intentionally harvested fuel that's part of the integrated harvest mix that creates a market for that low-grade wood. The wood chip supply chain all starts with forest management, where the forester works with the landowner to prescribe a plan that achieves the desired future forest condition. From there, the forester works with the logger to lay out a harvest plan that achieves the goals of the management plan. From there, the logger moves into conducting the harvest job and removing those marked trees, and ultimately processing all the harvested wood into chips, and then that material is then transported from the woods to the facilities where it's received and stored and ultimately converted into energy. Now that we've moved away from that byproduct paradigm of supply and have moved to a commodity fuel, more thought and purpose really needs to be put into that supply chain. Here in Vermont, we have roughly 78% forest cover. 86% of the forest land is privately owned. These private forest landowners have a wide range of objectives in owning their land: aesthetics, wildlife habitat, legacy for their family, and passing on that land and that stewardship to the next generation.
I've been doing forestry for about 15 years, or at least in the forestry scene. And as far as landowners end goes, we do try to get a handle on their objectives. Sometimes the objectives don't always line up with the conditions, but we try to help educate them about what they have, and what the economics, what the possibilities of having it. But we also try to educate them on the idea of producing these products that we all use right here in our backyards, as opposed to buying them from Siberia or South America. So the whole system is really important.
From the forester standpoint, what we're trying to do when we manage wood, when we remove trees from the forest, is really to kind of weed the garden, so to speak. We're trying to remove those trees that are less healthy, trying to improve forest health, and then manage to whatever the goal is for that particular private landowner.
A lot of our jobs, we are trying to grab some amount of that big wood that is either going to perish because it's got narrow forks or cankers, or it's ripe, but we also want to try and remove that inferior stem around the good stuff. And having a healthy firewood or pulpwood market or a biomass market is a huge help.
We're managing this property for a private landowner. Lots of low-grade timber on it, from the history of what's happened here, from reverting from sheep pasture to what it is today. If we didn't have the biomass market, it'd be tough to manage this property for timber value and long-term timber production.
By having a more integrated harvest, where you're taking out some high-value wood, at the same time you're taking out the low grade and the kind of those middle grades, as well as the fuel grade wood, makes everything more economically feasible.
There's a direct financial incentive for those landowners to continue long-term stewardship of that land.
That additional demand is fantastic to have. It helps keep the loggers going, helps complete these projects, and helps people get paid. And it's great that we're using the resource.
We deal with a lot of small landowners with maybe no more than 50 to 100 acres, and typically we do a lot of lots that have been painted by the foresters. So he's decided which trees to remove and what is usually typically best for the forest itself. And so we go in and cut them down and then bring our skidders and loader and slashers in to process the wood.
The overs do not work real well in some of the systems. They get caught up. So we put this screening facility in to take out the sawdust, the bark, the fines, and the overs. We cannot move this screening facility to the woods, so we bring this here on log trucks, pile it up, chip it. You have a hopper with a conveyor that brings the stuff out of there, up into the screen. The finer material drops down to the bottom and goes out the first conveyor over there. The second conveyor takes out the overs. The perfect grade chips come out this spout here and get blown into a tractor trailer. We started in the woods, or I did, with my father in the late 50s and early 60s, and we actually skidded wood down out of here with a horse. If you want to compete, you have to change with the times. And we're not really skidding too many logs with a horse anymore, and we needed to change our process from bollwood to screening chips to satisfy their customers.
There's a lot to this business. The quality of the chips, where you're getting them from. You can't truck them much more than 70 miles. You're going to lose all the profitability. And the same is true of your supply. You've got to keep it in probably a 55, maybe a 60-mile radius. There are, I don't know, 15, 16 schools we do out of the 42 or 3 in the state. So my schools are all within a 70-mile radius, and my supply probably is within a 50-mile radius. And I employ all local people. In the wintertime, I hire, probably we double our staff in the winter.
So we started, like I said, pretty close to 20 years ago. And we deliver to a college and then 2 or 3 schools. And the heating season picks it right up, usually from October. And right now we're in full swing. And we're delivering what they call live floor trailers. And these trailers have a floor system that unloads themselves, which is kind of cool.
Currently at our facility, we use our biomass plant to heat hot water. And we circulate that hot water on our 22-acre campus to heat, I would guess at this point, 95% of our building heat needs. It's certainly enhancing our local economy. I know of probably half a dozen guys that are probably, have a job because of our plant and a variety of other plants in the area. So from that perspective, it's creating jobs in our area and keeping our forests healthy.
Sustainability is key, and sustainability means different things to different people at this point, but we need to better define that so that people understand that what we're really talking about is the perpetual ability of that forest resource to regenerate and continue to provide all the values that we need a forest to provide.
When schools and communities ask questions about where that wood came from, it's not a question mark, in that we can trace that supply chain back and have clear answers for those communities about where the wood came from and how the woods were managed.
What I enjoy about my job is the health of the forest, and when I'm finished, seeing how everything looks and how the light comes into the forest and how the trees are properly spaced.
I'm looking forward to seeing us using wood to heat our homes, because people are seeing, they're getting their heat, they're getting their electricity from their own backyard. And if we consume too much of those products, they're going to be able to see it. If you're burning oil to do these things. That oil's coming from someplace you don't see, and you really don't have a real context of what's going on. I think we're using our own energy from our own backyards. We're going to be much more in touch.